Today we are going to do a topic on laws of learning, and these laws of learning, they have been formulated by Thorndike. Thorndike is known for theory of connectionism, which we have studied in the previous lesson also. In very simple words, connectionism means forming association between stimulus and response. And connectionism is a theory which is based on behaviorism. So this also we have studied in previous classes, that different theories of learning, different theories of education, they can be grouped into different categories, and behaviorism is one school of thought. According to behaviorism, the learner is having a passive state. That means he is not very interactive with the teacher, and he is passive receiver of information, and he only responds to external stimuli. Now these external stimuli, they may be coming from environment. As we studied in the previous classes, that stimuli is any change in the external environment, and as per the stimulus, the learner, he puts up certain reactions which are called as responses. Thorndike, he gave us theory of trial and error, according to which, in very few words I can say that learner learns through making different trials, and if during the trials, if he is able to achieve his motive, then that learning takes place by forming an association between stimulus and response. So in very few words I can say that Thorndike theory of learning, it is based on making many responses, and if any of the response is making the learner able to achieve the goal, then that response, it gets associated with the stimulus, because through that stimulus and response association, the learner was able to achieve his goal. Then this stimulus and response pair, it forms a connection and it becomes a habit. So that is how we can say that how laws of learning or how Thorndike theory fits into behaviorism, and why it is called theory of connectionism. Connectionism because it is forming response between stimulus and response. It is forming a connection between them. And behaviorism because it is a theory which is based on behavior of learner, and learner is basically responding to any external stimuli which is taking place in environment. Thorndike, his full name is Edward Lee Thorndike. Let us try to know about this psychologist who has given such important laws of learning. Edward Thorndike or Edward Lee Thorndike, he was an American psychologist, and he worked with cats. So he made many experiments, he tried to study the behavior of the cats, and based on that he gave certain laws, and these laws, they were found to be very useful with the human learners too. Rather, Edward Thorndike was the first psychologist whose theories or whose laws, they were found to be used in education. So in a way, he was the first educational psychologist. So he worked with different experiments, and whatever theory or law he proposed, based on that, ultimately it developed operant conditioning, which we have studied in theories of conditioning, where we studied two theories, classical conditioning and operant conditioning, which was given by Skinner. Pavlov, he gave classical theory, and operant conditioning was given by Skinner. So according to Edward Thorndike, whatever laws he postulated, these laws, they were later on used by other psychologists to further develop the theory. As far as connectionism is concerned, it is general theory for animals and humans. And stimulus and response, it forms a framework of the behavioral psychology. It says that there is association between stimulus and response, and if that stimulus and response, they get associated, because the response which is being shown, it is helping the learner to achieve the goal, then stimulus response connection, it gets strengthened, and this leads to formation of habit. So what is habit? Habit is the formation of bond between stimulus and response. Habit, it can be strengthened or weakened by nature and frequency of stimulus response pairing. If same stimulus is being attached to same response, and every time it is leading to achievement of goal, then that habit will be strengthened. But if frequency of achieving the goal by forming that SR bond is not successful always time, or it is getting unsuccessful in many different occasions, then that SR bond or SR pairing will be weakened, or habit will be weakened, or habit will be lost. Thorndike's work, it is used in teaching of mathematics, teaching of spelling and reading, and in adult learning too. So he did a lot of work which was found to be used in teaching of mathematics. He gave a word book also. He formulated some word books for teaching of spellings and reading. Thorndike's work in adult learning and in intelligence, that is also very useful. So we will take a brief understanding of what kind of work was done by him. So these stimulus response or habit formation, this type of work or whatever laws were given by Thorndike, they are being used in teaching of mathematics, spelling and reading, adult learning and intelligence. So these are the four fields where work of Thorndike is very important in specific. In general, all the laws are applicable to teaching of skills as well as teaching of abstract knowledge. He also gave stages of learning. So this is the most important part of the work which was done by Thorndike, that he worked in these fields as well as he developed stages of learning. In adult learning specifically, he developed alpha and beta version of ASVAB. ASVAB is Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. Battery here means a set of questions. So for selection of US Armed Forces, Thorndike, he made a test, a battery of tests. Battery means a set of questions. a set of questions, that test which was all MCQ type questions. So that question or that set of test, it was given to the soldiers who came to join the US Armed Forces. And he also proposed that ability to learn, it doesn't stop until age of 35, and only at that age also it starts at a rate of it starts decreasing by a rate of 1% per year. So this I am telling you because at that time it was perceived that probably the learning ability, it stops with the advancement of age. So with the experiments of Thorndike, he was able to prove that ability to learn doesn't decline. It keeps on increasing until age of 35, and after that there may be small setback, but that is only 1% per year. Later on it was found that the ability to learn doesn't stop, but the rate at which we learn, that becomes retarded at certain age. That means even the adult learners, they are able to learn, they can be taught, adult learners can also gain knowledge, information and all. Though their capacity to gain that knowledge is not retarded, but the speed at which they are gaining that knowledge, that may be retarded. Regarding intelligence, Thorndike identified 3 main areas of intelligence. So according to Thorndike, 3 main areas of intellectual intelligence they were identified. And what are these 3 areas? These 3 areas are ability to process and understand the concept, mechanical intelligence and social intelligence. So according to Thorndike, intellectual intelligence has 3 main areas which can be named as ability to process the information and understand concepts, mechanical intelligence and social intelligence. We must remember that there are many different theories of intelligence, and different psychologists, they have given different factors which may be taken as factors for intelligence, or how the intelligence can be measured. Some intelligence theories, they talk of 2-factor theory, some talk of 7-factor or 8-factor theory, like Spearman's theory talks of 2 factors, whereas Thurston, he talks of 7 factors, and Gardner, he talks of multiple intelligences. Whereas Thorndike's theory, it talks of 3 areas of intellectual intelligence: ability to process and understand concept, mechanical intelligence and social intelligence, out of which mechanical intelligence is dealing with handling of physical objects, how you deal with tools or instruments, and social intelligence, it deals with human interactions. So these 3 areas, they were given by Thorndike as far as intellectual intelligence is concerned. So this is the main work of Edward Lee Thorndike, and in today's lesson we are going to study the laws which he formulated for learning. Thorndike formulated these laws for learning, which can be named as primary laws, secondary laws and subordinate laws. Three primary laws were formulated, that is law of readiness, law of exercise, law of effect. And three secondary laws, law of primacy, law of intensity and law of recency. And five subordinate laws like law of multiple response, law of set attitude, law of response by analogy and assimilation, law of associative shifting and law of potency of elements. So these laws, if we understand them, we will be able to gain a lot of information regarding how does learning takes place. We will go through these laws and try to understand how we can use them in learning process. And we will also get to know that there were certain laws which were denounced by Thorndike based on his further experiments. So as we will proceed through the topic, we will get to know about that. So let us talk about different laws. First we will discuss primary laws. Three primary laws were given. One is law of readiness. Law of readiness states that learning takes place if the learner is motivated, he is eager, and he is himself showing enthusiasm to learn. So it will tell us that if the learner is curious about the subject or the material which he is going to study, then he is ready for learning. Or in a way, learning takes place better if learner is motivated by his own self and he is curious to learn. So what we can learn from this? That being teachers, we must arouse the curiosity of learner. The learner should feel motivated so that he is becoming more receptive to the information that is to be provided to the learner. Second law of learning, which is called as primary law, that is law of exercise. Law of exercise simply means repeat or revise. The more stimulus and response is repeated, or more we revise the material, or more the learner is put to exercise, better will be learning. So for that, being teachers, what we can learn? That learning will be better if learner is made to practice the same material again and again. So this gives us a clue that to make the learner learn better, he has to practice. He has to repeat the same process again and again so that that habit is formed, which is formed due to formation of connection between stimulus and response. Third primary law is law of effect. Law of effect says that it is not only practice, it is not only readiness. If the learning is producing a pleasant effect on the learner, then learning is better. That means it gives us some clue about the use of punishment and reinforcement. That is, reward and punishment, they are linked to learning. If due to learning the learner feels happy or he is being rewarded, then learning will be better. But if due to learning the consequences leads to punishment, or the consequences are unpleasant, or they are not helping the learner in achieving the goal, then the effect is not making the learner learn. So the learning will be poor. So out of this law we can understand that we can use failure, reward and punishment for making the learning better. Out of these two laws, law of exercise, it was denounced completely by Thorndike, because later on he found that law of exercise, it does not lead to learning. Just repeating the same exercise, just doing the same activity again and again doesn't lead to learning. That means that simply doing one particular activity again and again will not form the habit. It will not be contributing to learning. More important will be law of effect. If the effect is good, then exercise will lead to learning. Whereas law of effect, it was denounced incompletely or in part, because law of effect says that there is role of reward and punishment. But in later experiments, Thorndike found that punishment is not leading to any effect on learning. So though reward was found to be successful in forming the SR bond, or it created learning, but punishment, it does not relate to formation of habit. So this is how, out of these three laws, this law was denounced completely, whereas law of effect, it was denounced partially. So what does it mean? Does it mean that these laws are not important or they are of no use? We cannot say that. Reason being that in real life situation, to some extent, all these three laws are useful, but they cannot be depended upon completely. There are other three laws which are called as secondary laws. Secondary laws are law of primacy, law of intensity, and law of recency. Law of primacy states that learning is best in the beginning, and whatever the learner learns in the first chance, that is having a long lasting effect on his memory. This is very important law, considering that because first learned things, they are better retained in our memory, they should be taught very carefully. So that means first exposure to any kind of learning, that should be very good, and the teacher must try to do it correctly in the first instance, because we all know that unlearning is very difficult. When we will study about theory of memory, and we study how memorization takes place, how memories are formed, how forgetting happens, then there also we will study that it is very difficult to forget what we have learned. So this is the same thing which is said by law of primacy, that the first experiences, they should be very correct, because whatever learning is going to take place in the first experience, that is going to last long, and whatever we are going to teach the first time, it should be correct, because later on altering that learning, that will be very difficult. Law of intensity says that if experience is intense or real, the more the intensity of the experience or more realistic it is, better learning there will be. That means if the experience through which the learner is passing, it is of intense nature, it is having strong impact on his psychology or environment or learning, then that learning is going to be strong, and only then the behavior change is observed. So that means only intense learning, they are able to cause change in the behavior, and we can increase the intensity by making the experience more vivid. If we excite the learner so that he is doing the work in a very taking much interest in that, and the experiences to which he is exposed, they are near to his life, then the learning will be better. And law of recency, as it is clear from the name, that recent things, they are memorized better. Learning is better if it is recent. Recent means if you keep on repeating and revising the experiences, then the memory remains recent, or the learning becomes strong. But if more and more information is built and the previous learning is not repeated and reused, then that learning will fade away. So that is the law of recency. So in a way you will see that all these 6 laws, they seems to be very simple, but formulating them and knowing them in the sequence, it will help the teacher to plan the lesson accordingly. Law of readiness means that you have to motivate the learner. You have to increase his enthusiasm. You have to make him eager so that he becomes more receptive to the information. Law of exercise means repeat and revise repeatedly so that habit is formed. Law of effect means that if the learning is linked to happiness, or if it gives some satisfaction to the learner, or if the learning is pleasant, then the learning will be better. So as teacher, the learner should be kept happy, or he should feel happy, or he should have pleasant experiences due to learning. Law of primacy means that learning is best in first instance. So first experiences should be good experiences, because it will be difficult to forget the habit which is formed due to first interaction. Law of intensity means the stronger the experience, the more will be learning. And law of recency means that recent things, they are learned better. As the time passes by, the learning, it fades away. So if you want to keep the learning fresh, then it should be repeated and revised. Besides this, there are some more subordinate laws which are given by Thorndike. One of the subordinate law is law of multiple response. Law of multiple response says that whenever a learner is put to some stimulus, then it is not that only one type of response is shown. The learner may try giving different responses depending upon the situation, depending upon the task through which he is passing. The learner may respond in a variety of ways, and through these variety of ways, actually he is trying many different ways of solving the problem, or many different trials, they may lead to many different experiences. For example, if you are trying to solve a puzzle, then you may try many different, there is not only one particular response which is leading to solution of the problem, solution of the puzzle. There may be many different ways. So learner, he tries many different ways, and whatever way, by using whatever way he is able to achieve the goal, he will be strengthening that association. So that means that the learner, he has to try many different responses. Multiple responses mean that there is not only one particular stimulus and response. There may be many responses. Learner tries through many different responses and finds what is best suitable to solve the problem, or what is best possible, or best suitable to find the solution to achieve the goal. Second law is law of set attitude. Law of set attitude, it lays importance on the learner's own attitude towards learning. That means learner's own habits, learner's own how he is receiving the things, or what is his own psychology, that is also useful in forming the SR connection or learning. Learner is guided by his own learning attitude. So different learner, they may be having a different attitude, they may have different choices, they may have different interest, they may have different psychological patterns. So it will always depend upon the learner's own mental capability, his own mental attitude, his behavior, that what will satisfy him. So that means there will be individual differences. Certain learners, they learn certain material, certain subjects, certain habits much easily as compared to others. So if it fits into his attitude, then he will be able to learn it better or earlier as compared to others. And learner will take interest in those tasks which are suitable to his attitude. Another law which states law of response by analogy and assimilation. Law of response by analogy. Analogy means similarity, and assimilation means that learner is able to find those points at which two conditions are similar. Learner may be applying his previously learned knowledge to find analogy, that how new situation is similar to the old one where he has already learned something, and he can assimilate old learning to find solution to new problem. That means if two conditions are similar, then learning will be easy, because learner will be able to transfer previous learning to new situation. If he is able to find the common points, or he is able to identify that what are the common elements in both the experiences which he did previously and which he did new. If there are certain similarities, then learner is able to identify those elements, then he will be able to carry forward his previous learning to new situation. Another law, that is law of associative shifting. Associative shifting says that sometimes two stimuluses, they may be associated, and if one of the stimulus is linked to a new stimulus, then it may lead to the same response. For example, if there are two responses which are linked together, for example, looking at mother's figure may give happiness to child. So looking at parents or mother's figure, it may lead to happiness. So that means this stimulus, that is mother figure, is attached to happiness, that is the response. Now if this stimulus, it can be shifted to some new environment, even then instead of mother figure, some other individual who is similar to the mother figure, it also may lead to same response. That means instead of real mother, some other mother figure may replace the stimulus. Then the response will be shifted because both the stimuluses, they are quite associative. This is very commonly used in advertisement. Putting up a picture of a beautiful girl with the advertised product is basically based on this, because looking at the beautiful girl's picture, it leads to happiness, and that happiness is linked with the new stimulus, that is buying of the product. So this is how the associative shifting works. So if in certain conditions the same reaction to certain stimuli, it may be associated, then shifting may happen. And another law, that is law of prepotency. Prepotency of elements. This is also called as law of partial activity. This law says that whenever the learner has to see or go through certain experience or receive certain stimulus, then he is able to divide the task into small parts. And those small parts, they are analyzed individually. And while analyzing, the learner, he may omit less important ones and concentrate only on important or relevant components of the task. So that means that learner can concentrate on some elements of the task and ignore those who are not very important. So only potent elements of the task, they are considered by the learner, and he is able to go from part to whole. That means learning is better if learner is able to identify the important component of the task. So these are some of the laws which are given by Edward Lee Thorndike. And what do we learn from these laws as far as modern day teaching is concerned? These laws, they help us understand that learning can be done in the modern school teaching by using these laws, as when we are interacting with students who are of low mental capability, then we can use these laws, such like law of practice or law of effect, where by practicing the same material again and again, we can make them learn. And from this we can also understand that learning has has to be purposeful or goal oriented. Only that experience will lead to learning, which only that experience will lead to learning if it is satisfying the goal of the learner.